think someone's going to point to me and give me that, like. Welcome to Park Street Christian Church. We are recording a live stream of worship and going to be converting this to YouTube. So this is a combo package. Welcome to Third Sunday of Lent, and I'm going to invite my friend Roberta to lead us in a call to worship.
The dust that shapes the journey,
The cross that guides it,
the color that surrounds it,
the light that fades through it,
the word that foretells it,
the wilderness that invites it.
This is Lent, and into its wilderness God calls us.
Come, brothers and sisters, Christ is heading for Jerusalem.
Follow now, letting love lead the way.
So Donna Kane is here to lead us in musical worship, and we are going to be singing Come Aegis Consulate. Come, you disconsolate, where you languish, come to the mercy seat, earthly need. Here bring your wounded heart. Here tell your anguish. Earth has no sorrow that cannot heal. Joy of the desolate, night of the straying, hope of the penitent, painless and pure. Here speaks the Comforter, tenderly saying, earth has no sorrow that cannot cure. Here see the bread of life, see waters flowing forth from the throne of God, pure from above. Come to the feet of love. Come ever knowing, earth has no sorrow, but heaven can remove. So now we're going to do a Lent moment that we've been doing each week, featuring a prayer or reflection, and then we will typically sing a Lenten response, and we today are going to show a video that inspired the song that we've been singing each week at worship. So if my friends here, which would be my sister and Roberta and Donna, will help read with this in community, maybe it'll give you a feel of that as well. You, O God, are mighty forever. You cause the wind to blow and the rain to fall. You sustain the living, give life to the dead, support the falling, loose those who are bound, and keep your faith to those that sleep in the dust. Who is like unto you, O God of mighty acts?
From dust we've come.
So let's face it, we're truly at an unprecedented time in our lives together. And this past week, I've done more sanitizing and agonizing of sanitizing than I've ever imagined. I've waffled between fear and being nonchalant a dozen times in any given hour. And when caring for a congregation that I'm longing to calm and embrace, I know coming across as flippant is not what you need. So I prepared this message knowing that few maybe would even hear it, especially firsthand. What is even more crazy is that today's topic was chosen over 4 months ago, long before anyone thought we'd be living through a national emergency due to a pandemic. Unbelievable, the amazing power of a germ so small. It has such a monumental impact on the global human life of our planet. I think of how we respond typically to natural disasters. I mean, from fire to hurricanes, landslides, blizzards, that how often we disregard the power of disaster in a small viral package. Anyway, during the season of Lent, our church's small group has been studying, and my sermon series has been based on this really great resource I have to give full credit to, which is the work of the people. And they have a video-driven discussion, and we've been using it at Park Street. It's entitled Sitting in the Dark, Growing Through the Poetry of Pain. I also want to give another shout out to a primary resource for today's discussion. It's one that you might think that I get a kickback from author Mitch Albom as often as I use it, the author of Tuesdays with Maury. To me, this timeless piece has quickly pulls me back to what is important if my own senses and sensibility doesn't. Now here's a recap of the book that if you didn't read it in the 90s or you haven't had a chance to pick it up, it goes like this. The book is a nonfiction account that Mitch Albom, who is a newly unemployed journalist, visits his professor, Maury Schwartz, when he hears that Maury is dying of ALS. Now, over the course of 14 visits, the two rekindle the professor and student relationship, which grows into a deeper, closer friendship, with Maury mentoring Mitch with his personal philosophical views. Now, as the title does tell, their meetings do happen on Tuesdays, with Mitch dropping into Maury's place with an occasional bite to eat until Maury can no longer take food. Throughout these meetings, Maury uses the life is short motivation to get the depressed and recently fired sports journalist back into the saddle of gusto. Albom's book is filled with what people now call Mauryisms, and here are a few. The most important thing in life is to learn how to give out love and to let it come in. Everyone knows they're going to die, he said again, but nobody believes it. If we did, we would do things differently. And learn how to die, and you will learn how to live. Now, I really couldn't stop thinking about Maury and Mitch's visits when I watched this week's small group video that I was going to share with you, but I think that it would take up not only a lot of time, but probably the quality wouldn't be as good. But it features a man named Jean Vanier. Jean was a Swiss-born social activist, a theologian, a philosopher who was involved in the efforts to provide congenial living communities for the intellectually disabled. He was a recipient of the 2015 Templeton Prize for his innovative discoveries of the central role of vulnerable people in the creation of a more just, inclusive, and humane society. The honor and its substantial monetary award was given to a living person, Jean is now deceased, but who made exceptional contributions to affirming life's spiritual dimension. He reminds me a lot of Henry Nouwen and his book, The Wounded Healer. I guess you could say, like Nouwen, this guy Vanier knew a lot about living compassionately, like a spiritual midwife walking alongside those whose days are filled with uncertainty and shadows. So it impressed me how taken he was with the life and writings of a young victim of Nazi Germany in Auschwitz. Her name was Etty Hillesum, who, in spite of her circumstances and emotional challenges that she experienced long before Hitler was on the scene, she adapted and found God's Spirit within and about her. In a book featuring her diary entries, A Life Interrupted, it is written, the possibility of death has been integrated into my life. I can now look at death in the face and can accept it as a part of my life. And in that way, I enlarge life. On the opposite, to sacrifice today, to fear death, to sacrifice a bit of life because of this fear, and with refusal to accept it, it is the best way of holding on to a tiny part of life, which hardly merits the name of life. That seems paradoxical, she said. To exclude death from life is to sacrifice a complete life, and yet to welcome it, we enlarge and enrich life. In response to this quote, Veneer said, excluding death from life narrows what life means. Even in the darkness, there can be something that can call us to fulfill our life's mission to love and be loved. Now, in the medieval world, reflection about death was expressed in the Latin phrase memento mori, remember you die. Thinking about Morris Schwartz and a few minutes with Jean Veneer kind of leads us to this, doesn't it? Memento mori. It's hard to not face it with statistics rolling in across our television screens. For folks like you and me in this very season of self-distancing, we can't run away from the fact that illness, death, brokenness are part of our life. But what's important is how we face it, how we sit with the stark reality that has been with us all along. We as believers must process and walk through the dark news with light-focused end in mind. When we accept these challenges, when we accept the rocky roads and life's end, we are then allowed to live more fully. As we capture in today's scripture from 1 Corinthians 15, when the perishable has been clothed with the imperishable and the mortal with the immortality, then the saying that is written will come true. Death has been swallowed up in victory. Where, O death, is your victory? Where, O death, is your sting? No sting? Maybe we can adjust that a bit. It's reality's sting, not death. The coronavirus tightens finances, our inability to control the choices of those we love, challenges and finalities. You name the sting. Let's face it. Does a good job of blowing away the mist and mythical illusion of control over anything but our attitude. Does this mean that we live foolhardy or risk the safety and health and security of others? No. But we do choose to live life with God's Spirit and the inspiration of the forefathers and mothers of the faith, like Maury, John, and Eddie. We learn that surrendering to the circumstances does not mean we surrender the bounty of what this very moment has to offer. We don't ignore the darkness, but make sure that how we choose to live is done with the end in mind. Living our lives on purpose, with purpose. Not huddled in a corner with fear, but huddled with hope, looking forward to every opportunity to take on life fully and dismiss death's sting. So, we'll take walks, we'll phone friends, we'll send a card or a letter to someone we haven't contacted for a while, we'll plant flowers. We'll fly kites when the weather's nice, knowing that this necessary reclusivity won't last forever, but neither will we. So let's not take this moment for granted. Now, I'm hoping many of you are with your families today and have an opportunity to watch this together and find time to discuss the importance of learning how to live life while sitting in the shadow of the unknown. Because let's face it, it's about time we did. So today I'm going to leave you with a couple discussion questions. I popped them up there earlier. You might want to jot them down, and they really do come from the discussion of small group work. And then Donna's going to sing some special music, and then we're going to close with a benediction, and I hope you can go on with your day, not huddling in fear, but huddling with hope. These are the questions. So Veneer said, I must accept failure or death or any other kind of brokenness. And from failure, new things can be born. How can accepting failure birth new things? Have you experienced it in your own life? You think you might be ready to experience that now? Veneer describes Eddie Hilson saying she had that capacity not to be frightened in front of violence and to see the violent person in need of help. And that's a challenge. How might we develop this kind of capacity? How can we form this inner strength? Let's think about that as Donna joins us with the song. In the morning when I rise, in the morning when I rise, in the morning when I rise, give me Jesus. Give me Jesus. Give me Jesus. You can have all this world. Just give me Jesus. And when I am alone, oh, and when I am alone, when I am alone, give me Jesus. Give me Jesus. Give me Jesus. You can have all this world. Just give me Jesus. And when I come to die, oh, and when I come to die, and when I come to die, give me Jesus. Give me Jesus. Give me Jesus. You can have all this world. You can have all this world. You can have all this world. Just give me Jesus.
Whatever wilderness the Spirit has brought you to,
We will walk in boldness as beloved children of God,
walking in peace under the shelter of the Most High,
walking in faith, knowing Christ walks with us,
walking in confidence, knowing love will lead the way.
Our thoughts, prayers, and daily actions will be filled with God's love and strength.